Mortal Kombat 2, more like Mortal Come Back, because they're definitely going to try for a third film. That was bad, I'm sorry. Hello and welcome to my review of Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel to the 2021 film by the same director. This one introduces Johnny Cage, former movie superstar and now washed-up actor, as he is recruited to join the Mortal Kombat tournament in a fight to preserve Earthrealm. Now, I'm not a Mortal Kombat superfan or anything like that. I consider myself a casual fan at best. I've played some of the games, I've always made a beeline for MKII whenever I'm at an arcade. I have a general understanding of the story and the characters. So while I may not have understood some of the more niche aspects and Easter eggs, I definitely understood the film and some of its shenanigans and some of the blatant Easter eggs. Overall, I had a fun time with this movie. Does that mean it's good? Let's get into it. Starting with the positives, the fights. It is simply not Mortal Kombat without the brutal fights. Every single fight is incredibly fun. It has such great choreography, brutality, everything you could want from a Mortal Kombat fight. The set pieces that create these scenes are straight out of the games. If you're here for the fights, you'll get exactly what you're looking for. The fights are the crux of Mortal Kombat. It's the controversy, it's the fame, it is the reason people love the games. That and also the fun characters, but whatever. So having these great fights is essential, and a little bit of a spoiler for the video, I think they relied on the fights a little bit too much, but again, we'll get into that. The fights, fantastic, all around. Moving on, there are two characters who really got to shine here, Liu Kang and Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn especially is incredible in this, portrayed by a 6'8". You heard that right, 6 feet and 8 inches tall, bodybuilder Martin Ford with menace and excellence. Not to mention his fucking awesome design. Comparing this to his video game counterparts, oh my god. He really stood out to me amidst all the characters for his sheer aura. Liu Kang, especially in the second half of this movie, got some time to shine with both his powers and some of his inner turmoil. I love both of them in this. They did such a great job with them. There's also a character in this who I genuinely did the Wojak face over, who I'm going to spoil real quick, so if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead 10 seconds. Alright, are we good? 3, 2, 1. Noob Saibot is in this. Oh my god, he was awesome. So fucking cool. That entire fight, amazing. I needed more of him. Okay, that's enough of the spoiler. Now, unfortunately, those are my main major positives. The fights, and a few characters that I felt were done justice. And some that came back. It's a Mortal Kombat movie, so it's to be expected that the fights are what they're going to put a majority of the effort into, like I said earlier. That is where we get into the mixed. I don't necessarily have any negatives, since I don't truly dislike any of these things like I would with any other video in a negative section. Even if I lean a little more towards the side of, I wasn't so hot on that, they really could have buffed it up a bit. However, these are major things that kinda bogged down the movie, at least for me. It sounds oxymoronic, but I have a system, okay? Leave me alone. Firstly, since we're on the prominence of the fights, there really felt like there was a lack of a fully formed story. To me, they built these grand, awesome fights that progress the narrative, show off the characters, all that, but they didn't know how to complete the story between those scenes. I'm not going to say it's bloated or filler or anything like that. I feel like it's actually quite the opposite, where we're rushing through the story just to get to the fights, which, yeah, it makes sense. I'm not asking Mortal fucking Kombat to be an A24 artsy critic boner jam or whatever, but just some more refining to the story rather than going from point A to point B to point C. It really could have done the movie a lot more justice. You can argue that this is pretty much the game's in essence. Again, I have minimal experience with the game, so don't put my head on a pitchfork. But as a film, you still kind of need a bit of story rather than relying purely on awesome fights. A somewhat similar issue happened with Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which I'm still very mixed on. I love it as a FNAF movie, but as a movie itself, I fucking hate it with every fiber of my being. The element that it's supposed to represent from the games, they do a great job at it. They do an immensely good job with it. But with everything else, but with the story building and the characters and all that, they are really suffering. Thankfully, Mortal Kombat 2 is not nearly as bad as FNAF 2 when it comes to that, but it's still a comparison that I unfortunately want to make. I'm not overly negative because it doesn't really bother me too much. Maybe I'm just in a really good mood today. Maybe I'll change my mind here in a couple of days, but it just doesn't bother me nearly as much as it usually would. Now, another thing to point out again that I mentioned earlier is the rough, at times, CGI. This film had a roughly $80 million budget, which I was shocked to hear that this was anything below 125 mil. So for the visuals and the set pieces that they managed to pull off here, it's impressive. But there can be quite a bit of clunk with blending in these actors into their environments, and some of the visual effects all around just it's kind of wonky. I am significantly less harsh on this than I am with my other criticisms, since I think the VFX are more than serviceable. But what I really had a rough time with was the acting. It's okay to have some camp here, but several characters, notably Sonya, Kitana, even Raiden at times, had some very rough scenes that really could have just used another take or two. They felt so stiff, whether it's the actors, the script, I have no idea. And now, unfortunately, it's time to address the elephant in the room. Johnny fucking Cage. For as much as I love Carl Urban, I don't think that his performance here as Johnny Cage was nearly as strong as it could have been. Out of everyone, his acting felt the most stiff. His accent slipped through almost every single word that he spoke. This feels more like a role for someone like, I don't know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Glenn Powell, rather than Carl Urban. Johnny Cage is my favorite Mortal Kombat character. He is just some fucking goofball amidst these godlike beings, actual gods, and people who have dedicated their lives and bloodlines to becoming warriors. I think in terms of fighting style and his character within the fights in this movie, it's strong and very well executed. But in almost every other scene, it just doesn't work for me at all. That doesn't mean I hate Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. I think it could have worked with a lot more refinement. Not just with him, but refinement for all the other characters and to the story itself. They feel like the start of something rather than an end product that went through multiple drafts and takes. Mortal Kombat 2 is very action heavy, and it focuses more on that action rather than developing its characters and the story beyond the surface level. It's not terrible per se. I think a lot of Mortal Kombat fans will have fun with it, but if you're a fan of the franchise, it's good to go into this with generally neutral expectations. Now, there is an argument to be made here that all of the mid-acting and the lack of substantial story, all of it is intentional, all part of a ruse to make it feel like a campy 90s action flick that is Mortal Kombat. I think that idea could work if they fully leaned into that, and of course if it were marketed as such. But this was marketed mostly as the Mortal Kombat movie where Johnny Cage enters the fray, and the stakes are much higher. Major shit happens to the characters, and yet we move on so quickly from it. It's fun, but ultimately lacks some substantial elements that I think could have made it an even better film. Even so, it is still one of the significantly better video game adaptations. It's not quite Sonic or Fallout, but it's a pretty solid take on the games in essence. It's, again, bringing up 5 Nights at Freddy's. It's like the first FNAF movie. It's somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a tad bit higher. Go check it out while it's still in theaters if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, or if you've already seen it. Let me know what you thought about it. And I think that'll do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching here to the end. I've got a review on Lord of the Flies here soon, so be sure to stay tuned for that, as well as some other major movies due to release here in May. But until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll be seeing y'all soon.